Hi Earthlings. Greetings from a path of spiritual development and self-discovery. We are going to delve deeply into the first essential spiritual test today, which is called faith in the storm. Have you ever been caught in the storm of life, with problems threatening to swallow you whole and adversity blowing violent winds? It is in these very moments that the transformative power of faith is shown through the test. Think of life as a violent storm that throws you around like a ship in rough seas, swirling erratically. The test of faith is an invitation to demonstrate the tenacity of your beliefs even in the face of apparent injustices. It is not a cry for resignation. It calls on you to withstand the storm with a resolute faith in a higher power, an invisible hand leading you through the mayhem. Let's now explore the main points of this exam, comparing the difficulties we face in life to the relentless might of a storm. Imagine yourself confronting the storm head-on while standing on a ship's deck. The wind howls and the waves crash around you, threatening to rip everything apart. However, there is a chance for reflection and spiritual strengthening among this mayhem. I've personally faced seemingly overwhelming storms. There were moments when the pockets were bare and the banknotes towered like dark clouds in the sky. A protracted illness or an unexpected diagnosis can cloud one's faith. The loss of a loved one, a painful breakup, or being cut off from friends in the community are all storms that have the power to upend your entire existence. The surprise is that these storms are designed to see how strong your faith is rather than to destroy you. When life seems to be falling apart, it's simple to lose faith, yet these are also times when there's a chance for deep reflection. Can you maintain your composure in the face of chaos? Can you avoid reverting to your former isolation or snap judgments? Being composed when we talk about faith doesn't imply ignoring issues. Instead, it represents a strength that realizes panicking is pointless. It's a call to breathe, let go of the urge to be in charge of everything, and have faith in something greater. Think about it. Could you ever have a true understanding of the depth of your own faith without these challenges? You find a stronger, more resilient version of yourself as the storm rages and life breaks off the dead branches. Life cuts your flaws to help you establish deeper roots, just like a gardener trims a tree to promote growth. Even if the process could be unpleasant, every wound offers you the possibility of a fresh start and the potential to become the person you were always meant to be. Let's take a time to stop and think. Do you turn to self-reflection for comfort during difficult times? Or do you fall back on old routines? Can you take a deep breath amongst the chaos and have faith that each storm is molding you into a more genuine version of yourself? Now reflect on how beautiful this process is. As you weather each storm, your path gets clearer and clearer, teaching you more about your strengths, limitations, and problem areas. This procedure is similar to spiritual pruning in that it prepares you for the next stage of your journey, but it's hard. A quotation that perfectly captures the spirit of this spiritual exercise is the one I'd like to leave you with. Faith is not the belief that everything will go as planned, but the conviction that, come what may, you can navigate the storm. What parallels does this have for you personally? Please feel free to express your opinions in the section below. Recall that life's storms are not meant to break you. They are meant to mold you, strengthen your faith, and ultimately lead you in the direction of your destiny. If you thought this was enlightening, you might like to subscribe for more knowledge on overcoming life's spiritual challenges. May your faith serve as an anchor during a storm till the next one. We explore the practice of patience, which is the second crucial spiritual challenge that life throws at us. So, have you ever been in a circumstance where it seemed as though life had stopped? There are times when everyone else seems to be moving quickly while you seem to be at a standstill. Now is the perfect time to comprehend the deep wisdom underlying the patience test. Let's begin with an intriguing idea. What if waiting is actually a test rather than a barrier? Imagine yourself standing motionless as the world around you moves at an erratic speed. An initial feeling of anger or even betrayal could be experienced. Ultimately, our culture is built around speed. Rapid food, fast automobiles, fast Wi-Fi, the quicker, the better. However, what if this unplanned break contains an important lesson that forces you to change your perspective and achieve inner peace? Think of waiting as a difficult yet fruitful kind of spiritual practice. It's about doing something important, like developing your spirit, not about doing nothing at all. When it feels like progress is stalling, the overwhelming impatience you feel is a call to stillness and reflection. It becomes increasingly important to learn how to slow down your racing thoughts and calm your restless soul when the world around you speeds by. Consider it. Waiting can be agonizing when you sense a deep calling or that you are meant for something more. Just when you're all fired up and prepared to take on a brand new chapter in your life, you run against what seems to be an immovable wall. Weeks past become days, and weeks into months, with nothing happening in between. Your confidence and resolve are undermined by the emergence of doubt. What if, however, this delay is a lesson in disguise, putting your dedication to your quest to the test? Now let's explore some interesting queries. What is your approach to waiting? Do you perceive it as a challenge or as a chance to improve? Is it possible to be content to just be, instead of always doing? The art of waiting involves actively engaging in spiritual practice and developing patience, which is a talent that will come in very handy throughout your life. Now think about this comparison. Waiting is like sowing seeds into the soil of your future. You patiently water them, fostering the growth that will ultimately result in your dreams coming true. When the door you've been waiting for finally swings open, the rewards are greater the longer you wait. The more complicated modern life gets, the harder it is to find time to stop and reflect. However, these stops and these waiting times should not be viewed as obstacles, but rather as chances for personal growth. You can re-establish a connection with your inner self and have a better understanding of what matters most to you at these times. Now let's discuss the contentious side of waiting. In a culture that prizes rapid satisfaction, patience is frequently viewed as a sign of weakness. What if, however, it is an indication of strength? The ability to have faith that everything will work together and the door in front of you will open at the appropriate moment. Being patient is an active attitude and a deliberate decision to have faith in how your life will work out. Let me cite someone to bring some insight to our discussion. Patience is not the ability to wait, but the ability to keep a good attitude while waiting. How does this viewpoint appeal to you? Do you think that waiting is a mindset that can be developed? To conclude our discussion of the art of waiting, allow me to share this with you. The longer you wait, the more deeply you will value the experience. It's important to treasure the convoluted and uncertain journey that brought you there rather than simply focusing on getting where you're going. If these ideas have been helpful to you, think about subscribing to get future talks on spiritual development and mindful living. Have you ever attached yourself so firmly to someone, a goal, or a piece of property that it seemed to be an integral part of who you were? Today, we discover the deep wisdom that is hidden in the detachment test and the freedom that results from breaking those bonds. Let's begin with an example that most of us can identify with. Put yourself in the position of a bird. You are in awe of its freedom, color, and beauty. You care about that bird, yet as soon as you squeeze closer in an effort to own and dominate it, you wound it. This nuanced comparison captures the spirit of the test of detachment, which is a difficult but priceless spiritual journey lesson. Attachment is a strong emotion. Everybody has dreams, people, or objects that are very special to them and feel like extensions of who they are. The problem arises when these bonds entwine with our identities. The universe may step in and give you the test of detachment when these attachments get so strong that they eclipse your higher purpose. It's intended to encourage you to flourish rather than to harm you. Let's now explore a thought-provoking query. Which attachments in your life can be impeding your spiritual development? Think for a moment about the things that are difficult for you to let go of. Dreams, belongings, or even relationships. The seeds of separation can be sown in this introspection. The idea that detached behavior could be interpreted as a lack of affection or as being icy cold is what has caused the criticism surrounding it. On the other hand, the reverse is true. Being detached invites you to assess your priorities. It's realizing that your higher calling should take precedence over your earthly commitments. Asking oneself questions such as, am I serving my spiritual purpose or am I ensnared by earthly attachments, is part of the letting go test. You might be wondering, how can I separate from something that means the world to me? Realizing that this is a test of your spiritual maturity is the first step. It's admitting that your spiritual mission is more important than your material attachments. As you set out on this path, turn your attention from what you could be losing to what you will gain. A life that is more purposeful and focused, a closer relationship with the divine, and greater alignment with your soul's mission. Think about this. Letting go is a brave and loving gesture, both toward the divine and toward yourself. It's about realizing that you are valuable and have a purpose that goes beyond material possessions. Your ultimate objective and your real self will become more apparent to you as you continue to pass this test. Let me share a quote to infuse our conversation with some wisdom. The root of suffering is attachment. The core of the test of detachment is captured in this profound statement of the Buddha. Suffering always results from clinging too firmly to life's fleeting pleasures. What meaning do these terms have for you in light of your personal experiences? I now extend an invitation to you to share your stories as we work through this complex dance of detachment. How did you handle the difficult task of letting go? What insights have you gained from your experience letting go of attachments? Your observations may be helpful to those traveling a similar path. Before we wrap up our investigation of Release the Chains of Attachment, let's be clear that the goal of this exam is to evolve, not to lose. It's about releasing oneself from the bonds of attachment in order to ascend into a life filled with meaning, purpose, and spiritual prosperity. If these observations speak to you, you might want to subscribe to our channel so that you can see more talks about spiritual development, conscious living, and self-improvement. I hope you have the strength to let go of things that aren't serving your greater good, and that the process of becoming detached will be freeing. Have you ever been enmeshed in a web of animosity, clinging to your complaints as though they were your most valuable assets? Today, we discover the transforming force that lies beneath the forgiveness test and the freedom that results from letting go. Let us begin this deep investigation with an age-old question. Is it really possible for forgiveness to set one free? Although it is sometimes taken for granted, the ability to forgive is essential to opening the heavy door that conceals the way to inner calm and spiritual development. Consider forgiveness as a liberating power that releases the bonds that hold you back from suffering, resentment, and a history that is beyond your control. Let's now explore a thought-provoking situation. Imagine yourself in circumstances when it appears nearly difficult to forgive, a betrayal, a long-lasting hurt, or an injustice. When you choose to let go of anger even though every part of you wants to hold on to it, that is the test of forgiveness. It's about releasing oneself from the burden of bitterness, not about accepting the behavior or suggesting that what transpired was okay. Think about this. Being able to forgive is a difficult, demanding, and profoundly transformational process rather than a simple act. It's simple to harbor resentment, focus on errors, or allow rage to develop within of you. However, choosing to forgive is a deliberate choice to leave the past behind, to move from the shadow of bitterness into the light of fresh opportunities. Let's discuss some interesting questions. Which circumstances in your life call for forgiveness? What positive effects have you seen from letting go? We can start to understand the enormous effects of forgiveness on our spiritual journey by investigating these questions. The idea that forgiveness entails weakness or capitulation is the source of the conflict surrounding it. On the other hand, the reverse is true. You declare, "I am bigger than what happened to me." When you forgive, "I've overcome my history. I'm prepared for boundless spiritual development in the future." Releasing oneself from the bonds of bitterness is the true meaning of forgiveness, not absolving others. Let me offer a quotation from Maya Angelou to bring some insight to our conversation. Forgiveness is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. Please pardon everyone. Think about how important these words are. What meaning does the notion that forgiveness is a self-gift have for you? Let's now examine the test at a deeper level in order to better understand the depth of forgiveness. It goes beyond just saying, "I forgive." When you can no longer feel a flurry of emotions when you think about the person or situation, you have truly forgiven them. It's an unfathomably liberating and deeply peaceful condition. It's critical to understand that forgiveness is a spiritual journey and that this is a test for your own development. See the lessons these situations might impart on you by looking past your hurt and bitterness. Consider this. What can I learn from this? How can I learn and change from this experience? When the answers finally emerge, you'll realize that you've accomplished more than merely passing a test. Rather, you've reached a major turning point in your spiritual development. I now want you to talk about your experience forgiving others. What have you learned about yourself, and how have you overcome the difficulty of forgiving others? Some following a similar route may find resonance in your insights. Prior to wrapping off our discussion of forgiveness, the key to spiritual liberation, let's recognize the important reality that forgiveness is a process rather than a final goal. It's a continuous process of development and recovery and evidence of your fortitude and resiliency. If these ideas speak to you, think about subscribing to our channel for more talks on self-improvement, mindful thinking, and traditional spiritual teachings. Greetings, fellow beings. After enduring trials of endurance, forgiveness, faith, and detachment, we have arrived at the end of our trip. We stand at the brink of spiritual understanding. Together, let's intertwine the strands of wisdom and introspection, accepting the core of our spiritual path and realizing our potential. We have encountered storms on our exploration that have put our faith to the test. We now know that, even in the midst of chaos, there is room for reflection and a chance to strengthen our belief in the heavenly forces that sustain us through life's storms. When we think about this, think of the storms you have survived. What blessings have come from the difficulties you've encountered, and how has your faith changed over time? The practice of waiting turned out to be a difficult challenge that required us to discover inner peace in the midst of a hectic environment. Instead of being a barrier, waiting is a challenge that invites you to remain motionless, think, and develop. Have the pauses provided you any comfort? What impact has practicing patience had on your understanding of time and how your destiny is playing out? It turned out that breaking free from connection was a brave move that gave one the chance to grow rather than fail. Detachment means choosing your spiritual purpose over material attachments. It is not about being apathetic. What attachments have you been able to let go of, and how has this helped you to follow your higher purpose? The secret to spiritual emancipation and a priceless gift to oneself has been revealed as forgiveness. It's about releasing oneself from the burden of animosity, not about tolerating. What effects has forgiveness had on your path? Have you ever felt how letting go may change your life? As we move into the final phase, we face the humility test, which is the still, inner strength. We see humility as a force that knows its value without having to prove it at the expense of others in a world that frequently misinterprets it as a sign of weakness. Something about this strength says, I am, and that's enough. In what ways have you been put to the test of humility? How can you strike a balance between elevating yourself and not overshadowing others? Let's dissect the contentious humility viewpoint. In a culture where power is frequently used to gauge success, humility pushes us to stay true to who we are while avoiding treading on others in order to advance. When you consider your accomplishments, how have you managed to handle success? Have you extended a helping hand to uplift others? Or has the overwhelming want to judge others who are still pursuing their goals overcome you? We discover the beauty and the continuous nature of the spiritual journey by connecting these tests. Life is a series of challenges that help us grow as people by making us smarter, stronger, and more spiritually connected. While the obstacles may appear severe at the time, they serve as the sculptor's tools, molding us into a reality that is entirely in line with our soul's destiny. Remembering the knowledge contained in every challenge, let's appreciate the entirety of our spiritual path. Faith, patience, detachment, forgiveness, and humility are not isolated ideas. Rather, they are interwoven strands that together create a life with meaning and purpose. Lastly, think about this. Is accepting your spiritual path an ongoing process or a final goal? Maybe the trip itself, the never-ending, transforming road that guides us towards spiritual development and self-discovery, is the destination. The famous Persian poet Rumi once said, "Don't be satisfied with stories, how things have gone with others. Unfold your own myth." Consider this a call to unfurl your own tale, to accept your individual journey with all its storms, pauses, detachments, liberations, and quiet energies inside, as we conclude this series on essential spiritual tests. If you have found value in our investigation of spiritual wisdom and these insights have struck a chord with you, you might want to consider subscribing to our channel. Come along with us on this never-ending path of spiritual development, conscious living, and self-discovery. May the light of understanding shine upon your journey, and may you never stop discovering the immense potential that lies deep inside you. Accept every challenge as a step toward your destiny till we cross paths again on this holy trip.